How's it going, everybody? Welcome to my review of Parasite. So before I actually start this review, I'm just going to say really quickly, this is going to be much different than anything I've really ever done as far as a review on this channel. And that is because with this movie, I'm going to actually be going into depth with the story. I'm not just going to be talking about, what I did or did not like or what caught my eye more. I'm actually going to be going into depth of this movie because Parasite is a movie that I've tried to review in the past. It's a movie that I've seen probably 10 times or so at this point, and I've always dropped a different score for it. And I really wanted to make sure that the score I gave it, which a lot of you may not like, I wanted to make sure that that score was the one I wanted to stick with. And I really wanted to make sure that I actually was keeping track with everything going on in this movie. So again, this is going to be much more, into depth than any review I've probably ever done. So without further ado, let's get to this. So when this movie starts, you get a good idea of what this family's current lifestyle is like. Their phones aren't of access anymore. They're fighting for Wi-Fi or signal for that matter. And they're currently folding pizza boxes for a living. And going even further into depth, their home is also very, connected to the outside world. It's very open and it's in an area where a home doesn't really feel like home. And the way that this family struggles, the way that they're displayed, that all changes when the son of this family is actually offered a job to tutor a very well-off student. And as this boy gets involved with this situation, as he goes to the house to actually interview and to kind of go about this and see how this feels, everything from this household to this well-off family is not necessarily off per se, but from where this boy comes from, what his background is. You can see that from the way that this wealthier family lives to even the way that they view things. It almost raises like adrenaline in a way to this kid. And you can see very early on that this boy, as he gets involved with this situation, things start coming up that are cause of concern. There are things that he gets involved with that could have consequences to them. But as the movie goes on, you really start to begin to see another side to his family. You begin to see things such as manipulation come into play and ways for him to get his family involved with the situation, and not only maybe get used to this kind of like wealthier lifestyle, but also to kind of sabotage this wealthy family in doing so. The second that this boy gets involved with his family in the very beginning, he goes to every level to get that lifestyle that they have, to reach that and to live that and, have him and his family experience that. And that's literally what this movie is. Understanding from where this family comes from to how and where they get, as far as where this wealthier family has everything that they never had and have always wanted. You see very detailed how that begins to control them and kind of take over them and change them as people, and not necessarily in a good light. And it begins to get to the point sometimes where you can actually see this poorer family back in their own household kind of scripting ways and going over each family member's individual roles to just become what these other people are, to take over their lives. And the routes sometimes that this movie takes to not just show certain things, but also going from one thing to another. The pace can be a little bit bothersome. You can clearly see that the film is really trying to take focus on each individual character and go through each person's stories. But for a movie that is well over 2 hours, this was kind of something that was kind of like a hit and miss for me. And this is honestly just mainly aimed at the first act of the movie. I do feel like the first act of the movie is very kind of like a bumpy start for the film, but the second that it gets through this first act, everything just exceeds from that point. The film really takes a very drastic unfolding to where you look back on it, you can see where everything led to whatever and why. But in the moment, things happen so fucking fast. And it's, again, in such a drastic shift that it actually impressively and shockingly just catches back up with itself. And as the film goes into its second act, which really does completely just feel like a completely different takeoff from the previous act, you really see the film hit its peak at this point as the wealthy family is now out of the picture, and this other family is now house sitting for them in a way. You really see how fucking beautifully crafted that this all comes into play. This film does extremely well with keeping viewers' interest in two specific ways. And that is blending genres that not just feels organic, but also feels like when these genres do shift, it actually feels like it's, when the point comes where it is time to pull the plug on a certain genre, if that makes sense. And I think that is what brought me to my issues earlier on in the film, is that the first almost half of this movie, you really don't know what kind of movie you're watching. And I think that's also what made this much more different of a review for me to do, is that this film feels specifically just for the viewing. But going back into the movie now, yes, you really see how these people got themselves into this situation. How everything, because of each individual action, got them to such a darker side of it. And them having to cover up everything and getting involved with things that about this other family's past that they had sabotaged earlier on. This is a movie that is told from themes such as manipulation, power, karma. And this film does magnificent with not just telling how, each individual side comes together, but the different levels of each side. And it tells that in vastly different tones throughout the movie. You see very well how these people just eventually lose themselves and how they just can't even keep up. And it gets to the point where you see the consequences and the aftermath of the story in a very bizarre and emotional way. This film does extremely well with escalating itself and exceeding itself as the movie goes on. And it does that in ways that are, dark humor, and it does it in ways that are very violent and very disturbing, and it does it in ways that are very impactful emotionally. And lastly, one thing specifically that I really want to talk about this movie that really hit me hard was how far this poor family is willing to go, and also realizing and showing how they all cope with how much shit that they've gotten themselves into in the process. This film probably crafts every genre that you could possibly think of in some way, shape, or form into it. And now that I look back on each act, they do feel very genuine. Again, I think that the pacing kind of fucked me up in the beginning, just because halfway through this movie, I didn't really know what the fuck I was watching in the very beginning. But once this movie was over, it really did feel fucking complete. And again, I have seen this movie so many different times, but it's one of those movies, it's kind of like The Shining in a way, in a very different sense though. But every time that you rewatch it, you not necessarily find things that are different each time, but the story just comes more and more together. And I think that is an intensely impressive factor of this movie. A lot of films can't do that, especially, might I add, blending all these different genres together. This film really felt like madness in a way. Now, before I give my full-on review and grade, I just want to say really quickly that, again, this did really feel like a challenge for me. This is probably the hardest review I've ever had to do. And it's not that I was per se forcing myself to do this one, and it's not even that I was putting it off or anything. It's just, this is a movie, again, where I've given so many different viewings to, and I've seen it in so many different mindsets and given so many different grades that I really had to make sure, was this going to be the one that sticks? And I really could not just do this review without going into depth with the story, without talking about it in its full glory. I have to. It was kind of like with The Shining, which obviously with The Shining I'll do more videos too. That's a given. But I had to talk about as much as I could properly about this movie if I was going to be doing a review on it. This is just a movie that is honestly just more involved than most films I may have ever seen in my life. But with that all being said, and now brought to attention, let's get into the grade and final discussion of this video. I do think that there are issues with this film, specifically the pace. The pacing goes on many different levels, and it can be to the point where it can be hard to keep up with, especially considering that this is a film that is over the 2-hour mark. But this is still one of the most original films of 2019 in my opinion, if not the most original. If you can keep up with the first act and get through it, it's all uphill from there. I'm going to give Parasite a 7.5. So that is my full-on review of Parasite. This was crazy to watch and take notes on and discuss. I had a blast with it. I really did. It was just I needed to make sure that this was the right time and the right method to go about it. So yes, that is my review on Parasite. I'm giving it a good and a half just because there is so much to take in with the movie every second, and it is a very involved and very long movie, as well as the first act of the film. Although at the very end of the movie, looking back, it all kind of does seem to come together a lot better. For already how involved this movie is, especially with the beginning half of the movie, that just kind of did tone things down a little bit for me in a little bit of a negative way. But overall, this is still a movie I think everyone should see at some point. I think it is one of the best of 2019, with even though it isn't something that I would say is a awesome movie. Even though, it does have a lot to it that not only is good, but I haven't really seen a lot of other movies pull off. But yes, that will do it for my review on Parasite. I am going to be going into a lot of throwback reviews coming up soon. I'm going to be doing one on Hereditary, actually, which is going to be a video out of request. Someone had actually requested me earlier today to do a review on Hereditary, and yeah, I can't fucking wait. Fucking Hereditary, right? But yes, I will be going into a lot of throwback reviews, just kind of going through my DVD collection, talking about certain movies that I would love to finally review. There are going to be some newer reviews as well coming out this month, such as Freaky coming out like this week, I think. Run with Sarah Paulson is coming out at the end of this month, which I'm definitely excited to talk about. I'm hearing good things about it. It is a movie that again was delayed from this year. But with all that aside, I hope you guys really did enjoy this review. It was very different than my other reviews. This is a much longer video. But, I mean, fucking Parasite. Again, I had to make sure that I was going to go about this the right route. So, again, thank you guys for watching the review. If you are new to the channel, it's great to see you, and I hope that I can please you. And if you guys are familiar with the channel, thank you for coming back for more, and I hope that I can continue to please you. I will see you guys in the next video. Take care.